Dear Jana, dear Vincent, welcome, and thank you for saying yes to this conversation about methods, tools, and strategies for fostering learning and knowledge sharing in public sector. Jana, we all know that when talking about change and change in terms of becoming a learning organizations, there is normally a resistance. And based on your experience, your CEF director, how can we manage this resistance in the process of change in order that this transition is effective for people, process, and institutions that are working in the public sector?
Well, Petra, thank you for the question. A very important question, because with change, there's always resistance, right? And one needs to understand, as a leader, I need to understand that this resistance is very normal, that it comes from the fear of unknown, and this needs to be addressed. So leaders, we need to communicate vision, where we are going, what we are going to do as clearly as possible. Also, we need to engage people early, very early. This actually has to be a process that is done together, not as in isolation in one office and then diffused, right? There needs to be given time, space for learning, for discussing this. This is incredibly important. Often we rush through our daily life at work and forget that basically we need to have conversations. And in these conversations, we need to address perhaps emotional difficulties or some kind of stress that team members face when they go through transition in any area of work. So in this respect, some people have more appetite for change, some people less. It's very important to also team up with early adopters to actually have champions. And, with that, then the group follows. What is needed also is to monitor all the time what's going on, and then pinpoint successes or areas to address as improvements. All the time there is this process, what can we do better? What can we do better? But with that, when we understand that we can be better, at the same time, we have to understand also that where we are okay. And that only if we understand that we are okay, we can have this calmness that we also then can work together. So this is not a task or initiative that can be with the leader, with the minister, with the governor, or with the CF director. This needs to be across the institution initiative.
Thank you very much. And as you said before, learning is change. And Vincent, can you share some of concrete methods, tools, and strategies, even if you, of course, you know them, that really enable public institutions, when becoming learning organization, to learn across people, technologies, and also processes?
Thank you. I think it's an important question. So the three pillars really to become a learning organization is really around people, process, and technology. Now, there need to be a balance and on how you manage these three different pillars. But the balance is, I would say, is unbalanced. So usually we require around 70% of efforts on people, because as we mentioned earlier on, we need to get this culture change. Then 20% of efforts on processes, and only 10% on technology. So technology needs to be there. It's an enabler, but it's not, even if you have the best and the latest technology, if people don't use it, then you're going nowhere. So that's something to keep in mind all along this transformation. Now, learning, very often we see learning as, or we think as learning as individual learning. So learning in the classroom. So That's of course that's the initial start, if we want, of becoming a learning organization. But learning should be embedded with the work. So learning by doing, learning by observing, learning by reflecting, and reflecting, I believe, is very, very important. So if we look back, for instance, you were asking for some specific practices. British Petroleum, a few years back, put in place a system where, well, I mean, they were driven by the idea that, well, every time we do something, we should do it better than the previous time we've done it. So they say, well, we should be learning before doing a project, while all along the project, and also at the end of a project. So they implemented some processes where before starting any project, there should be some what we call peer assists. So when you ask who has worked before on similar project, what can we learn from past experiences? So we don't start from a blank sheet of paper. And then later on, all along the project, so at every milestone, to be able to stop and reflect, okay, using what we call an after action review, what was supposed to happen, what really happened, why is there a difference, and how do we make sure that next time we do it, we do it slightly differently. And then also at the end of the project, reflecting completely over the entire project. So these are examples of type of learning that can happen in everything we do. You just need to take the time to reflect along the way. So it doesn't need to be complicated or require lots of resource. Sometimes just to start capturing some knowledge. Now, we learn a lot also from our successes and from our failures. So we should also be able to put in place a mechanism to capture these proven practices and what we could call these worst practices. And I think we learn more usually from our mistakes than we learn from our success. So it's important to openly, and going back to what was said early on, to develop this culture of psychological safety. So where people feel that, yes, they can share even their mistake. And you have organizations that really encourage or reward failure. And because if there is no failure, it means that there is no change, no innovation. And so I think it's also important. So there are a lot of different forms of learning. There is also, of course, learning, what we call social learning. So learning through communities of practices. So I will talk probably later on a bit more about these communities of practice, but it's really a way to bridge silos in organization, where you bring people who have similar interests or similar challenges to collaborate and learn from each other on how to address them. And of course, there is also learning from outside the institution, because there is a lot to be learned from outside. So sometimes we talk about techniques like bench learning. So not benchmarking, but bench learning from what happened in other countries or in other industries, organizing some knowledge exchange to learn from others. And there is, of course, a lot of things usually to learn from outside. So as you can see, there is a lot of different opportunities, and there are, of course, a lot of tools and practices that can be applied along the way, but it's really should be embedded with the flow of working and not be seen as something external to or that we do once a month or once a year.
So it's something that we can do on a daily practice.
Exactly.
When we connect work and learning, as you said before. Thank you. And Jana, we said that role of leadership is of extreme importance. And yet from the theoretical part, we know that there are two approaches when a public institution wants to become a learning organization. One is top down and the other bottom up. So what is the role of a public sector employee and how can they initiate basically a transformation and also sustain the transformation towards the public institutions becoming a learning organization?
Petra, you're very right. These transformations actually can happen from bottom up as well. In fact, Right now, we are working with an institution where there is a leader of the academy that initiated the quest to become a learning organization. And what she is doing is communicating within the institution what she wants to achieve, what will be the benefit for the institution. But of course, what she does is also that she is role modeling by herself, that she's constantly learning, but also transferring her knowledge, what she learns on the way to others. So we hope that many others will follow her also from other institutions. She connects within the institution, she connects with other institutions, and what is important, she communicates to the top, basically to showcase, basically communicates and showcases the success what she has been achieving in these 2 years. So when I came to the institution, let me tell you that this is Ministry of Finance of North Macedonia. I was very glad when I met with the minister. She really expresses deep support for this academy, and this is something that I thought, wow, this undertaking will have future, and we are so looking forward to working with them.
So to have a vision and also a courage to do concrete steps,
yes,
is definitely something that matters, right?
Yes, and not to give up, to have courage and not to give up, because it's so easy to give up. You know, in public sector, basically, there is lack of funds, time. Sometimes you feel that you cannot do much, right? And I encourage public servants that despite that basically they start. Even CEF, we started from, you know, studying the concepts and being then convinced by that. And we started to do first steps. And when we started to do first steps, so many new horizons open. So don't stop at the beginning, or don't think that you cannot start if you don't have everything in place. You just start. And then when there are complications on the way, you know, don't stop, because this is so natural. There are ups and there are downs, and downs are even give more possibility to think of innovative ways to address an issue that is currently at stake, right?
Thank you. Vincent, you know, there is so many knowledge in every organization, and how can public institutions build an environment where this knowledge is firstly captured, shared, and applied across different levels of the organization?
Yeah, so that's one of the main challenges that organization in public and private sector are facing, and it's a lot of institution organization are siloed by nature, and so it's not always trying to break the silos, because the knowledge, I mean, they all have their specific and knowledge domains, but how can you bridge these silos? So it goes back, first of all, to again having a culture of people being open and willing to share and collaborate with each other. So for this knowledge to flow, but this can be somehow started by trying to develop, I mean, cross-unit teams, or having projects that force different units to work and collaborate with each other, which again facilitates the sharing and learning also from each other. So another way, maybe less institutional, but which is also to try to organize social events so people also can know what the others are doing, or who are the others also in different units, and very often through such kind of social events, people start to develop some connections, start to trust each others, and this facilitate, again, this helps to create this culture of collaboration. But ideally, I mean, developing communities of practice is really the best way and the most efficient way to bridge these silos, by really having people, helping people. So, I mean, communities of practice are people who come together, which are not forced to come together, but they are self-motivated to learn from each other, because they want to, do their job better, faster, or whatever. I mean, or just being able to further develop their own expertise, and then collaboratively decide what they will work on and how they will go about it. And so when you get this self-motivation, for sure, I mean, sharing happens much more smoothly. But they develop and they capitalize some knowledge, and newcomers, for instance, can join these communities of practice and learn a lot from what has been already captured over time. And that's a good way also to, when some of the key people leave the institution, for the community to still have this knowledge. So this is a very powerful tool that a lot of organizations do use to address this problem of knowledge flows. And when it comes to, again, knowledge flowing also outside the organization, as we described early on, I mean, knowledge exchange, properly designed knowledge exchange can be a very effective way, again, to learn from outside and exchange each other. So there are different mechanisms, but at the end of the day, again, having a supportive culture and a friendly culture toward knowledge sharing is important, and it does require a lot of effort. I mean, some institutions have by nature some culture where people are more open to share than others, but also it's based on their time that they are given, the opportunities that they are given to each other. So sometimes forcing this opportunity, or sometimes forcing some serendipitous event, are also a good way to try to find connections.
Thank you. And Jana, there is a saying that the only constant is change, and yet we always find the excuse, not now, it's not the right time. So if we want to encourage public institutions to start their path and transformation towards a learning institutions, what is something concretely they can do in the next 100 days to kind of build the momentum and also deepen their commitment towards becoming a learning organization?
Petra, what you said is very correct. You know, time is here very important. Taking time. It sounds so easy, but yet it's very difficult thing to do with all the pressures that public institutions have, that also in our case that we have in our daily work life. So taking time, and that means that even the leader of the institution, announces that basically there is going to be some time in a week allotted to knowledge sharing and to learning. And that could mean, for instance, that an institution could initiate internal knowledge sharing events or external knowledge sharing events. What does that mean? That one team member, one staff member has something to offer, knowledge to share. And this can be shared in an hour or an hour and a half every second Friday, for instance. This is something that we do here at the CEF. So this could be internally shared, but also it could go across the institutions, right? I mean, let's be very practical. There are teams in institutions that are working on reform agenda, right? And if they have one team in one institution has challenges, it's better to reach out than try to reinvent something that other institutions do already. So some kind of a structure in place within the institution already that can accommodate this external knowledge sharing session can be very handy. For instance, in case of CEF, we 10 years ago, for instance, even 6 years ago, we aspired that this knowledge within the institution would be shared regularly. But until we set aside time, exact time on Friday at 10 o'clock, it didn't really happen in a structured way. Now it became routine. And this is very important, that it becomes routine and ingrained. And just this morning, for instance, I got an email from Ministry of Public Administration of Slovenia asking, would you be interested to learn about our practices, how we are studying, how reforms take place? And immediately I went like, yes, we have external knowledge sharing Fridays. Let's accommodate this during this time, right? So having time set aside in a structured way is very important. And then, Vincent, you mentioned communities of practice. This is a very important, basically, way of sharing knowledge or platform of sharing knowledge, that people come together from different institutions, basically, to connect on a certain issue that is burning issue for them. In practice, knowledge sharing happens every day. It's just then a matter how much this is curated, how much it's purposeful, and how much then it stays when it's done.
Thank you. And what I heard, it's not only how we manage time, but the decisions that we do within the time that we are having. That is also hearing from your answer. Thank you very much. Thank you both for this great conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.